Okay. First of all, thank you so much for coming to share your work with us. We really appreciate it.
はい、こちらこそありがとうございます。
Thank you.
For my first question, I'm just interested in how you first encountered Kei Nakazawa's novel, your first reaction to it.
もう30何年前なんで、30何年前にあるプロデューサーから根岸吉太郎という監督とやらないかって言われて、その時に一度シナリオを書いたんですけれど、原作者が気に入らなくて、これじゃ映画にさせられないって言って一度流れたんです。
So it's been over 30 or so years that I encountered Kei Nakazawa's novel, and at the time a certain producer approached me with an idea of adapting the film with director Taro Negishi attached, but the original author didn't like the adaptation, so the project fell through.
で中澤さんと何度か新宿の飲み屋でもうそろそろいいんじゃない、時効じゃないのとか言って、そうねとかって言ってやっとできたんです。それでも女優さんがなかなか決まらなくて、日本は今裸になってくれる女優さんがほとんどいないんで、それも1回流れて、2年越しぐらいでできたのがやっとこれです。
So after that, the author Nakazawa and I would go to bars in Shinjuku and talk about maybe it's time to finally do the adaptation. But the problem was we encountered some trouble finding the right actress, and one of the reasons was a lot of Japanese actresses these days are very resistant to taking off their clothes. So it took after another 2 years before we could finally get it started.
And the two main performers, Yui Ichikawa and Sosuke Ikematsu, are so wonderful in the film. Did you have a hand in the casting process for the both of them?
女優さんはなかなか全編裸じゃないかっつってみんな、事務所の段階でダメだったんですね。で彼が監督の安藤と僕のことを知ってて、シナリオを読んでぜひやりたいって言って彼が言ってくれたんでずっと成立っていうかな、企画が残ってて、で、市川由衣がやってくれるっていうんでできたんですけどね。でも結構うるさかったです、事務所が。
So we encountered a lot of problem with the agent of the actors because the actress was supposed to be naked through most of the picture, of the whole picture actually. But it was because the main actor, Mr. Ikematsu, he read the screenplay. He knew the director and myself, and he read the screenplay and he was quite attached to it, and he was very fond of the story. So because of him, this project was able to come to fruition. But eventually we found the actress, Miss Yui Ichikawa, but even then her agent created quite a fuss.
And I'm wondering if keeping the film set in the late 1970s was very important for the story you wanted to communicate.
そうですね、考え方っていうのも含めて、その当時中澤さんの小説で好きじゃない、君のことは好きじゃないけれど君の体に興味があるんだっていうことを正直に言う男にそれでもいいんだっていうふうにくっついてく女の子は当時ものすごく新しい感じだったね。
Well, yes, it was important to retain that time setting because at the time that Nakazawa's novel was published, it was quite groundbreaking to portray a young girl who consented to the idea of a boy being not liking her at all, but being interested solely in her body.
それを今の 時代に持ってくると固定電話を携帯電話にするとかっていうことだけ変えても考え方を変えられないんで70年代でやろうというふうに決めたんです。
But it wouldn't have been quite possible to change the setting to the present time. I mean, for instance, you could change the land phone to a cell phone, but still the way of thinking has shifted. So it was important to retain the 1970s setting.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to open questions to the audience. Any questions for Haruhiko Arai? If you do have a question, if you could raise your hand high. Let's see, we have a question right here.
In that opening scene, fairly opening in the cafe, did you write the scene with the song playing in the background in mind, or did you find the song after and write the scene to that?
そうです。増戸由美の曲です。
So yes, I did select the song. It's by Emi Matsutoya, so I did select the song for the scene.
.そうじゃなくて原作は違う曲が書いてあったんですけど待ち伏せっていう、きっと彼を振り向かしてみせるっていう歌詞が説明っぽいんだけどシーンに流そうって言って曲を選んだんです。
So, well, actually, in the novel, a completely different song was supposed to be playing in that scene. But the lyrics of that particular song that I used in the film, I thought it was quite expository of the scene. It talks about a woman saying that I will make him fall in love with me no matter what. So it worked that way.
Okay, do we have more questions from the audience? Let's see. We have one right up here in front.
I'm wondering whether the actress wanting to see a bear in the beginning of the film had any symbolism or meaning?
Is it the actress wanting to
see the bear?
ただのわがままです。
No, she's just being selfish.
Okay, do we have another question from the audience? I see one here in the center row. If you could wait for the microphone to reach you.
Could you describe the process of getting financing for films in Japan? I know what it's like in the United States, and it's really difficult, but is there government financing, for example? Is that part of the package?
.日本の文化庁というところがあってそれから助成金というのがありますけれど、制作費が1億円以上のものについて2000万で5000万の制作費の映画については1000万でこの映画は3000万で作ってますから政府から出てくる助成金に該当しないんですよ予算が少なすぎて。
So, well, there's a institution in Japan called the Ministry of Cultural Affairs, and they do give some government funding. As an example, if the cost of the movie is about 100 million yen, you would get a funding of about 20 million. But because the budget for this film was 30 million yen, it didn't apply to that scope, so we had no government backing whatsoever.
それで結局3000万ぐらいだとその DVD を出してる会社 DVD が売れそうかどうかというんでそういうところから出資を求めてます。
So, as I said, the budget was 30 million yen, so we had to acquire funding from companies that would with potential of selling DVDs and so on. So a lot of DVD production companies did back us.
これはなんかおかげさまでレンタルビデオもセルの DVD も好調みたいで生活が助かるんで喜んでますけど。
But fortunately, this film has been doing very well in terms of a DVD rental and both for sale DVDs. So it's been quite good for my livelihood.
Okay, I think we have time for one or two more questions. Can I have a question right over here on the edge?
What conclusions, if any, do you want the audience to draw about this very dysfunctional relationship between the two main characters?
僕がこの映画でやりたかったことはですね、トリフォーのアデルの恋の物語っていうのが、このシナリオを書く数年前にあったのかな。あれは女の人が地の果てまで男の人を追っかけてって気が狂っちゃう話ですけれども、ちょっとこの主人公の感じ全然スケール小さいですけれどもね、女が男を追っかけるっていう、それと同時に今度は男が女を追っかけるっていうのを、シーンバックしていったら何が見えてくるかなっていうことをやりたかったのと、例えば若い頃にお金がなくて結婚できないで、例えば子供ができて子供を産むことができなくて、でもその後結婚して、子供ができて、その若い時の不幸っていうのが、後になって幸福になった時チャラにできるだろうかっていう、僕はできないんじゃないかっていうルサンチマンがずっと残るんじゃないかなっていうことを考えてこれを書いたんです。
So, but what I wanted to do with this film, I think I was very much influenced by François Truffaut's story of Adele H. That film came out a few years before I penned this particular screenplay. In that story, a woman pursues a man to the ends of the world, and she goes practically insane. And I wanted to do something similar on a smaller scale in that I wanted to depict a woman pursuing a man, and in the film, it transitions to a man pursuing a woman. So, and another thing that I wanted to delineate is this idea of, can you get over misfortunes that you experience when you're younger, even if you become much more fortunate later on? For instance, say, for instance, a woman meets a man, but because they are in very dire straits, they cannot get married or have children. But then she goes on and marries another and have children this time. But can she get over that initial feeling of pain and struggle? And I think my answer is no, you never get over experiences like that.
We have time for maybe just one more question, if that's okay. Let's see, do we have any hands? Could we take one from the very front? If you could wait for the microphone, sorry. Hold the microphone up, I'm sorry.
The question was, the heroine in the film, she becomes pregnant at one point, but whatever happened to that?
できたと思ったけどできてなかったということです。でバスの中のシーンは生理が始まったって言って触ってそういうシーンですあれ。はい。
So she had assumed that she was pregnant, but but in fact she wasn't. That was the scene in the bus where she gets her period and she touches her thigh. So that was the scene that explains.
I think I saw one more hand. If we could take one final question, since that was a bit short. Okay, right here. Yeah, and this will be the last one.
I've never been able to do this before. When I've seen a film that you wonder what happens at the end, ask what you imagined happened after that last scene.
ラストシーン海に向かって歩っていくところですか？
そうですね。
つもりはですね、池松君が彼女が好きになった最初の男で、セックスして、それから行くずりの男とセックスして、多分3人目から普通の恋愛ができるんじゃないかっていう意味です。
So I think my intention for her is that the man played by the lead actor, Mr. Ikematsu, was her first love, her first sex, and then she has a sexual encounter with a man she just met. But I think from the third man on, she will be able to have a very ordinary, fulfilling relationship.
お母さんと2人で見てる海は多分原作では世界中の女の生理の血を集めたような真っ暗な海だったっていうふうに書いてあるんですけどね、最後は、青い空と青い海なんで、でその内を見つめてるのもかつてあそこで、お父さんがいてお母さんがいて私がいた、要するにやっと親から離れるということもあそこにあるわけですね。それからさっき熊が見たいっていうマガマーって言ったけど、あれはちょっと甘えてるんですね。亡くなったお父さんの話するところから始まるんで、ファザコンでもあるんですよね。だからそういうことで多分彼女はラストでやっと家からも離れて普通の女の子になっていくんじゃないかと。
So as you saw in the last scene, also she walks towards the ocean, but there's another scene with her sitting by the sea with her mother. And in the novel, there's a line that says that the ocean that the mother and the daughter is looking at is as dark as the blood of menstruation of all the women in the world. But in the last scene, you saw the blue sea and the blue sky. So I think that also depicts her departure from her parents as well as her own individual independence. Like someone mentioned, I said she was being quite selfish by saying she wants to see the bear, but that was showing also her immaturity and her need for a father figure. But in the end, I think she finally gained her independence.
Okay, well, thank you so much once again, Director Arai.
Thank you.